Hey, what's up, YouTube? I'm in Birmingham, Alabama at Grow Conference at Church of the Highlands. And what you're about to watch is a conversation that's asking the question, is the key to solving the modern problems of Gen Z actually found in some of the ancient practices of the church? Could the key to unlocking the future really be found in our past? I'm joined by my friends, Pastor Tyler Kriener, Elijah Lamb. We are one conference. Check out this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Love you.
How can a young person go deeper in not just their feeling of God, but their understanding of God? And how does that affect then their feelings and then affect their relationship with the Lord?
Being a youth pastor for 15 years, if you don't pair your practical faith you learn at church with a more robust church history and understanding of theology, you will fall away from Christ almost undoubtedly, or live a Christianity that's lower than what God has called you to. A lot of the studies and statistics prove that. So just simply for me, a lot of my passion for this came from, I do think I have a nerd bend for sure, but I just was tired of seeing people fall away from Christ. I'm tired of clapping for conference salvations that 5 years later walked away because all I had ever taught them was here's a series on dating, volunteer only. If you just volunteer, you'll never fall away from Christ. And I'm just but then TikTok just nuked them.
Yeah.
So I just think it's just vital. If you want to maintain your love for Jesus, you have to understand theology in church history.
When I'm thinking about it, I love talking about God. I'm not a good small talk person. I'm just terrible at it.
That's why I love you.
I would rather argue with you than kind of talk about the weather.
Yeah.
And I actually when I argue with you, I love you more now.
When I
And my
understood
wife
that about our
hates that.
friendship, it made a lot make sense.
If we're kind of tussling a little bit, I'm wow, I feel like I've grown in a relationship with you a little bit more. But if it's all surface level, and so for me, I want to talk about God, and I also want to talk about him in ways that are confusing and deep and frustrating, and that there's that toil to get through it because I'm interested in it. I think a lot of people, it comes down to you're oh, I don't want to get into that. I think it's just are you interested in it? And are you interested in learning more about God? There is the experiential side that is so, so important. We pair that with a wanting to know more about God. I was thinking about the parable of the sower where he's casting the seed. The first seed, it says it falls in the ground and it doesn't take because they didn't understand. A lot of people don't understand because maybe they just don't. But a lot of people don't understand because they just don't care. And if they just took 5 seconds, they could. I think you said this. You're people can
You mean
literally
Lucifer?
quote all of these movie lines. You can know all these basketball players. You can know all this stuff. Why? Because you're interested in it.
Yeah.
And if you're just interested in God, what will happen is you don't need to need a systematic theology textbook. You don't need a class to an extent. You really just need an interest. God, I want to learn more about you. I want to know what's going on. So I think when we approach these topics or we approach these things, it doesn't always mean that I got to walk around wearing skins like John the Baptist, but it can mean that I can glean something from everyone. I can glean something from every person who's been a Christian. I want to learn from them. G.K. Chesterton says that it's the democracy of the dead. That's what tradition is. I want to learn from the people who've gone before.
Can I bring up a modern,
I was-
just going off of what you're saying?
Let's go.
We all Indie Tribe, no big deal. It just came out with a song called Rob Hell. And in it is a very millennial reference. I ain't no Rob Bell, we about to rob hell.
Don't just sit back, type beat. This is not Rob Bell. We about to rob hell. At the front door, here with angels and an angry guy. Pull up. Who is that? It's the tribe.
Rob Bell was one of the first modern cool Christians that had a platform, and he was creative. He was in the early 2000s.
I used to buy his CDs, I hear.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
I read the books.
Numa.
Now he's a universalist, complete apostate. I think everything he would say about the Bible is heretical.
Millions of people were taught that the primary message, the center of the gospel of Jesus, is that God is going to send you to hell unless you believe in Jesus. But what kind of God is that we would need to be rescued from this God? How could that God ever be good? How could that God ever be trusted? And how could that ever be good news? And then he says very mysterious things he'll be lifted up and draw all people to himself. Well, what do what do you do with that? Or he says he has other sheep, or he speaks of a renewal of all things. He could have said a renewal of all good Christians. You know what I mean? He could have used lots of very specific sort of particular language, and instead he has this absolutely massive, wide, expansive embrace. And I'm okay with that. It makes things interesting.
And I think he would disagree with a lot of what we're doing. But then how did it go from there to this in 2012? And even now, you'll hear people say, well, his early stuff is good. But when you understand theology, you start to discern that a lot of these modern heresies are really age-old ideas that creep into biblical teaching. And so, for instance, Rob Bell's most famous series of talks called Pneuma, and his big talk, it's like got lots of views on YouTube, is where he's talking about how the universe, and in this phrase, no one knows that he's a heretic. He might not even know he's a heretic. He might not even technically known that he was on his pathway to be like a heretic, meaning misleading people from Jesus. He has this whole talk about how the universe is constantly moving forward.
The fundamental energy was the future is back there somewhere, but that's the wrong direction. The universe only knows how to go one direction, which has been going for 13.8 billion years, and that is forward. The universe has been increasing. The universe has been increasing in complexity, depth, and unity for 13 billion years at least, the whole thing being pulled forward. And then, 13 billion years into the story, human beings show up on the scene.
And that God is all about, and he's constantly creating, and he has this illustration. It's like brilliant. When you watch it, you're like if you watch it at face value, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so good. God is so good. But his whole idea is that God is never interested in looking backwards. He's always only looking and moving forwards. So it's at the center of this idea is like this idea that all fundamental ideas are bad and all history is in some ways potentially dangerous. God always wants us to progress. Well, what's another word for progress? Being progressive. And now you could take that in a couple different like angles, but fast forward to 2012, a few years after this video, he writes a book called Love Wins, in which he tries to maneuver biblically that hell is not real. And he builds an entire, basically new theology of Christianity under the idea of, would a loving God do blank? Well, if you erase hell and you start to teach Christians that to interpret God is not through the word of God or his character historically or the history of the church or these saints, but it's just answering the question, would a loving God say you can't love whoever you want to love? All of a sudden, everything starts to dismantle and unravel. Fast forward to where he is now. At that time, when he wrote that book in 2012, he still says he's a Christian, still says he's a pastor. There's even reports when Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers was a Christian when he was dating NASCAR person Danica Patrick, that he was like very much on a path of Christianity, but then he started talking to Rob Bell. So there's a lot of people who believe that, like, if you're familiar with Aaron Rodgers, his weird like ayahuasca trips and darkness retreats, and a lot of that actually found its origin in who was at one time a prominent like evangelical Christian pastor. So, and now these guys that wrote this song, which you should all go listen to it, Rob, it's called Rob Hell. But I'm so glad they're bringing it up because I think laced in hip hop is like this important warning about why church history and theology like matters. And they actually wrote that song when they were at Rolling Loud. And so they're like amidst this. I just think it's so cool. I'm not even trying to to be honest, like I have not listened to a lot of Christian rap lately. I'm not saying I've listened to Travis Scott. I just mostly listen to worship. But like meeting Kyle this week and being friends with these indie tribe guys, like seeing this, I'm like really interested again. So I'm not trying to be like a fanboy. I'm just trying to like unpack.
But and Bon Cantina too.
And,
right?
Always Fireflies forever. I say all that to just say, I think to me this is a modern example of how quickly, if we lose sight of these things and what the saints of old have already dealt with, we accidentally are listening to or becoming heretical.
What can we learn as a modern church that the ancient church did way better than we do? That's what we're talking about with chronological snobbery. We don't answer that question.
I mean, I have a really practical one.
We're way better than every other Christians ever been. It's like, probably not. They probably got some stuff wrong. They did for sure, but we get some stuff wrong too.
Exactly, and that's why I think the answer isn't only in living in church history.
Yeah.
Like that's why, like when Solomon says there's nothing new under the sun, there's some people who take a very literal view of that and are like, yeah, see, all new ideas are bad. We shouldn't have LED screens. It's like, okay, that's not good either. Like,
My take on LED screens is that they're just modern stained glass.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I hate that take. Stained glass is so cool.
It is cooler. It is cooler. I didn't say it was better. I just said it's modern.
Can modern stained glass just be stained glass still?
It
I like
can.
stained glass. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
Right.
My
I'm not
church
saying
has,
it's
my
better.
church has both.
Yeah.
Home, we have an LED screen and stained glass. So take
There you
that.
go. Haha.
What do you want
What do
to
you
answer that
think?
question? I have a quick answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, what did the ancient church have that the modern church needs? I think a deep reverence for the practice of communion and confession. In certain modern traditions that are more rooted in ancient stuff, they are still practicing that. But I think our evangelical culture, we do like communion like once a month, once a year. And confession is just something that we're like, oh, that one time someone had to do it for priests. And so Martin Luther that one time, so we shouldn't do it. And I'm like, I fully believe that these are some of the core spiritual practices that Jesus himself said to do.
Yeah.
And we're just like, nah, we're good. Let's just journal. You know, I'm like, no, journaling's great. I journal like almost every day, but I think we need to have a higher view of communion and confession. And the ancient world did that well.
It's hard to speak of the modern church like it's a monolith and of the ancient church like it's a monolith.
Yeah,
'cause
true.
It's not the
Meaning
case. It's
one
just-
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not all there are lots of modern churches that embody ancient things really well and lots
Sure.
that don't. There's lots of ancient churches that did things that I wouldn't want to replicate. Like in Jerusalem, there was a period where they were baptizing each other naked. Yeah, I mean, dudes baptizing
Hey,
dudes,
Russell
girls
Brand
baptizing
did that
girls.
like 3 months ago.
Yeah, that's true. Saint Cyril of Jerusalem, like their practice was, I mean, it's actually cool when you read about it. But yeah, they did naked baptism, and I'm like, I'm good. I'd rather get the like
There's
I'm
some
born
problematic.
again T-shirt. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah, I'd already take that. So there's like, yeah, raised to life instead of butt naked. You know what I mean? So they're like, there's like things they did in the ancient church that I'm like, I'm good on replicating. But I think they're really simple. I mean, they had a really simple commitment to a lot of really important things. Yeah, that's bad. If Scott's Stapp is the creed and not the Apostles' Creed, that is alarming. But so like the church, when they gathered, they would read the creeds. When you were baptized, you recited the creed, and that's the confession of what Christians believe that everybody like memorized and held to. Like we have like, all these Christians who are absolutely doctrinally confused, and they can't define like who is Jesus, who is God, what's the Trinity. It's like those are like such core fundamental theological issues. If you don't explain it, it's like part of that is we don't embody the creeds anymore. Like we're not attached to what the church has always taught. We're always looking for a new modern way to like re-explain something, But like every issue that we're struggling with, the church already has a better answer on than the one you're going to come up with. Like 100% of the issues, there's a better answer that some smart guy in history said better than you'll ever say it. That's why I read books.
Things like AI or what the future of even something like transgenderism might look like. They might not have a direct answer on that, but they might have helpful
Not like an
ideas around
immediate-
that. The only reason why I push back on that is just because I think that in honoring the traditions of history, we don't take a defeatist attitude saying, I also can never learn.
I'm just saying because in
potentially-
history they built. So they built on what the guy before them said and what the guy before them
Exactly.
said. And we've sort of broken that chain and thought like, if for something to be good for me to say, I need to feel original, I need to feel smart, like I need to feel a sense of fulfillment, so I need to come up with something that's totally just about me and my ideas. I want to think anciently so I can respond to modern issues. So
Yes.
it's like, let me take on ancient ways of viewing the world so that when modern things happen, I have a good response to them that the church fathers don't have a response to because they weren't dealing with triple genetic gay couple IVF babies. Like
Yes.
they would probably die if I told them that. That's like if you gave a medieval peasant a Dorito, that kind of thing. It's like they would just die from that receiving that piece of information.
That is wild.